What is this phenomenon, play, which in a sense is so familiar, but at the same time so difficult to pin down or describe? Most people have never thought about play consciously if you casually ask people what they thought play was. They wouldn't think it was terribly important almost to know the answer. And yet, in academic life, you spend a lot of time thinking it's extremely important to know the answer, and a lot of people think they've found it.
Well, it's not everything. And if you call it the kind of negative of life, that makes it quite clearly something that has to be in opposition to the rest of everything. Because we are constrained. I mean, it's easier to define the other things than to define play, and everybody's had that problem. I have to eat. I have to go to work. I have to sit here while you do this camera work. But then all those can be negated. And where's the area of negation? It's that attitude where you switch off the regularities, the customs, the expectancies, and let your mind reverse them or go off in a kind of heedless, undirected way into caves of its own excitement, as it were. My metaphor for this is it's like a turn-off button. That is, you can turn it off at any time, or turn it on momentarily. While somebody else is talking, you're playing in your mind. You're saying, no, I don't buy that. I buy some other possibility. Well, your greatest success would be to edit the film so that I gave you the answer to the wrong question. and sometimes an answer to no question and things of that kind. I mean, you could really make a Harpo-Marx series out of this whole thing through editing, perhaps. See, while the camera's going on, everybody's got their job. The cameraman's going, you've got to think of a question, I've got to know that an answer has to come, and I've got all those answers already laid on anyway. All these are kinds of life logs. They're life scripts. We have all these scripts around us all the time. And it's only each time we free ourselves from one of these, even momentarily, that we get a sense of a lift. And I think that's what play's about. It's very difficult to do it, though, unless you keep breaking up the action. Because I think that there's various kinds of play. See, we don't want to give the idea that anything we can say is play as such. There's many things you can say that can be play. So I could take all the strips of film and throw them on the floor and run a random kind of thing, and I might laugh about that and so on. On the other hand, I could take pieces of film and I could make a very good translation from one place to another, and yet have a sense of, hey, this is really different. This is not the way it usually is. When they see this man, you know? And that sense of possibility in me would be playful, although my matching would be very careful and like throwing it on the floor, you know? Once you say that we want to make this play-like, so the medium is the message, the problem with that is that's immediately a serious thought. In other words, you've given us a script for how we should do this, which is to make it play-like. But you can't make it play-like by that kind of intention. And the way for us to make it play-like with that kind of intention is to be terribly serious. Do you get it? So that the very intention can have play only as its reversal. And that's why I've been serious all the time. What's in my head as play is not necessarily in your head. And the problem we have to try to solve is how we find the word here. Every word meaning allows a play of meaning. And so when we finally arrive at the word itself, it's not surprising. It takes about a page to define it.
How did you begin to be interested in play yourself?
Mainly because my father was a fairly authoritarian kind of guy. He always knew what the answer was. And I sat in the back seat and made wisecracks. And in those wisecracks, found in that kind of leeway my own autonomous life in relation to him. And then later, found in studying the subject seriously, I turned around and became his kind of authority with my kind of content. Something like that. You know?
Behavior that is out of context.
So why are fire engines red? because 1 and 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. There are 12 inches in a ruler. Queen Mary was a ruler. Queen Mary ruled the sea. There are fish in the sea. The fish have fins. The Finns fought the Russians. The Russians are red. Fire engines are always Russian, therefore fire engines are red. And that's a wonderful series of linkages that have to do with similarities in sound more than they have to do with the kind of logical meanings that adults seem to stress. And I think that's very typical of the ways in which younger children play with language, and I think that it has to do with the shape of language in their head at particular points in their development. One of the critical aspects of play and of speech play is that it allows one to come up with alternatives, to see that there are other ways that language can be organized, that there are other ways in which meaning can be organized, and it's that kind of proliferation of alternatives that's essential to any kind of artistic process.
Again, I find the subversive element in it, you know, the sort of making
Yes.
nonsense of the world.
Sure, it's subversive because, I mean, kids will even say that why do things have to make sense all the time? At the kind of tyrannical demand that things should always make sense. And so that not making sense is something that kids revel in, and I do believe that our artists revel in it as well, because not to make sense gives you license to make a different kind of sense.